All right. So I see we are already at 15. It's 8:07. I think we can start. I hope I'm audible. Can I be heard?
Yes.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. So, good evening and good morning, depending on the place you're joining us from. Hope you are well. Welcome to topic or session 13 of our comprehensive sex education. Tonight's session, gender and norms. Mhm. Gender and norms. I think you're zooming too much. Just okay. Zoom out. Zoom out kidogo. Out, out. You're zooming in. Zoom out. Yeah, that's fantastic. That's okay. That's okay. Yeah, so hope you're okay. Hope you guys are okay. By the way, how are you? How are you? Mkoaje? How are you
Poa.
doing? Nitaipieni hapo kwa chat box kila mtu. Tell me how you're doing. Because we might be assuming each and every one of us is okay. Kumbe you're not okay. You know, the day has been long and whatever. So tell me, how are you doing today? Before we start our session. Fantastic. Kachile says you're fantastic. That's all right. Waiting for flowers. Who is this? Elsie Kagimbi. Waiting for flowers. From who? From who? Okay. Stephen Silas, you're doing well. Okay. Victorine, you're also doing well. That's fantastic. Na nyinyi wengine and the rest of you, ama mko katikati? Yeah. So that's fantastic. I'm also doing well. My name is Daniel Kitavi. I'll be the moderator for this session. And as I said, this is session number 13. We will be discussing about gender and gender norms. So tonight's session will be done by Eziani Linda. She's one of us at BBYI, Barrier Breakers Youth Initiative, SRHR department. So I'll leave the floor to her. She'll be the one to take us through the session. In case of any questions, you can type on the chat box, and during the end of the session, I'll give each and every one of you a chance, whoever wishes to, maybe ask verbally, can do so towards the end of the session. Otherwise, enjoy the session and feel free. All right? Eziani, when you're ready.
Thank you, Daniel. I think I'll start by sharing my screen. Are you getting me?
Loud and clear, Eziani.
Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, your screen is visible. It's okay.
Okay, then we continue. So today we'll be talking about gender and gender norms. When you hear the word gender, like what comes into your mind? Like why is it important for us to understand gender? For instance, for our first part, our guiding question is, why is it important for us to understand the difference between gender and sex? Anybody? Hello? Actually, I'm using my phone. Did you hear me? Like my guiding question, like why is it important for us to understand the difference between gender and sex? B, you can type or you can just unmute your mic.
Let me try.
Yes.
I think it is important to understand the difference between the two because most people out here normally use the two as synonyms for each other, but yet there's a difference or there's a slight okay the difference is not that much, but there's a slight difference between gender and sex. So I think it's important to understand the difference between the two.
Thank you. Anybody else?
And Asiani,
Yes.
your screen is visible. We can see whatever you're typing. So perhaps you can just stick to the presentation part.
That way.
Okay, thank you. That's okay.
Okay, it's important for us to understand the difference between gender and sex, whereby when we understand the differences between the two, it can help us when to avoid these gender inequalities, the biases. It can also help us to transform our thinking in the sense that when we understand the difference between the two, it's easier to to engage the two parties. Then we'll move to gender. Gender, these are the social differences in the way that males and female are expected to behave. Whereby in gender, for instance, for the female ones, that it's the social differences in the way that they are expected to behave, in the sense that for instance, the female ones, they're expected in a society according to different gender roles, whereby before it was expected that the cleaning chores at home, taking care of children, those ones they were expected to be female roles. While for males, like it was for providing, taking care of the family, like they are the head of the family. Then that's gender. Then we got to the definition of sex. Sex, this is the biological and the genetic difference between men and women of all ages. Like for sex, it focuses on the reproductive perspective, whereby in sex, we can say that only women are able to give birth to children and breastfeed them. But for men, that's not the case. After understanding the difference between gender and sex, we move to gender roles. Gender roles, these are socially constructed roles, behaviors, activities, and attributes that a given society considers appropriate for men and boys versus women and girls. We can say the examples of different gender roles according to your communities. Yes, let's discuss. Hello. What are the different gender roles whereby gender roles associated with women and some gender roles associated with men? According to your culture, anybody?
Okay, I think I'll go first. According to my culture, I don't really know because personally, me, I'm a Gen Z, so me maneno na culture hiyo sijui. But whatever, yeah. But chenye nimesikia, what I've heard from people out here, most of the things
Mm-hmm.
are associated with home chores. Like let's talk of cooking, let's talk of washing utensils, let's talk of something like even cleaning a baby, or like those basic home chores. So according to the community or according to the society, most people believe that those are roles that are supposed to be performed by women. And then for the men, they're supposed to perform more of providing.
Mm-hmm.
So now we normally have a slight contradiction and find a woman maybe doing the roles that are supposed to be or that are perceived, quote unquote, to be roles for men and vice versa. So that I think can be an example.
Thank you. Anybody else? I can put this example whereby, for instance, for gender roles for men, not necessarily the roles, like for an example of riding a bike, that was associated with men. But nowadays, you can find even women know how to ride bikes, doing house chores. Nowadays, both genders do those roles. It's not like associated to one gender whereby people are transforming their thinking. Are we together? Let's move to gender norms. Gender norms, these are just the ideas about how women and men should be and act. These are internalized in early life and the cycle of gender, socialization, and stereotyping. Examples of gender norms include stoicism and empathy, whereby men are stereotyped as being stoic and not letting their emotions rule them, while women are stereotyped as being highly empathetic and compassionate. These ones are examples of gender norms. Another one is hero and supporter, whereby men are envisioned in many films and cultural narrative as heroes, while women are often seen as the background characters supporting the man. Another one is strength and kindness, whereby men are expected to be strong and firm, while women are expected to be gentle and kind. Another example is active and passive. Men, they are expected to be active, whereby they need to take action in any circumstance, while women are normally seen as passive in order to be seen like they're acting like a lady. Under these gender norms, you can find other things that are just like gender stereotypes, whereby people assume because this one is a female that so they're expected to behave in a certain way, like whereby they've said women they are just empathetic and men they need to be strong, of which these ideas they are actually with transformation, education awareness, they're being wiped off. In addressing, then we move to another part. In addressing these gender norms, stereotypes, and roles, the following should be put into place, into consideration. Education and awareness, whereby we should address gender stereotypes. Addressing them requires one to be educated. Like you create community awareness through campaigns to challenge some traditional norms whereby they were expecting women to be only taking care of the family at home, doing those house chores. Nowadays, when women are empowered, they take part even in office work, of which these roles can be shared among women and men. Another thing that should be put into consideration is promoting inclusive environments where individuals are free to pursue their interests and aspirations regardless of their gender. Another thing that should be put into consideration is representation. Like in parliament, we have the three-quarter gender rule? That gender rule to include the female gender. Diverse representation in media, education, and other areas, it can help us to counter stereotypes and promote a more inclusive society. Then we can share our opinions. What else needs to be put into consideration?
All right, as you guys are continuing to ponder around that question being asked, Josephine and Onesimus, it's not actually 1/3, it is 2/3. 2/3, 2/3.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, maybe Eziane, when you're at that, I have a question.
Yes.
Okay, it's not really a question, but a point of discussion. Anybody can weigh in. Even as we are discussing about gender norms and issues to do with genders and gender roles and responsibilities and all that, out here we normally hear of these notions that currently we are producing weak men, quote unquote. And emphasis is being put in place with regards to such kind of education, like whatever whatever you're teaching us or whatever you're facilitating today. Like we are trying to be more liberal and we are trying to be more tolerant and accepting the fact that all men, like for example, I heard you mentioning a point on men can cry, men, things like that ones, things like those ones rather. So now, where do we draw the line between now the positive gender roles versus now the negative gender roles, quote unquote incitement? Because out here we normally hear people telling men, especially men, this problem normally affects men. As a man, you're not supposed to be washing utensils. As a man, you're supposed to be the provider. As a man, you're supposed to soak in your problems. So where do we draw the line? Because I don't think education or awareness or sensitization is really doing much to our society.
You've said you don't really the community awareness part and the sensitization part cannot alleviate the issue.
I don't think so, because already we have a fixed mentality, especially in Africa. Let's talk of Africa, for example. In African context, there's a fixed mentality that a man is supposed to be like this. Like already we have, for lack of a better word, a pictorial diagram of how a man is supposed to be, of how a woman is supposed to be. So now what can we do? Because it's like education is not, it's not working per se. Because I mean, you are trying to convince somebody who has been living in a particular culture or has been brought up in a particular way to sort of assimilate and come back to this other side of saying that, like a man, it's okay, you can cry, it's okay, you can perform home chores, it doesn't make you less of a man. Like, what more can be done? Or what's your take on that?
My take on that, we can use the practical perspective, whereby when you are taught, you through this education and awareness, people can try to put it into practice. Whereby, for instance, you right now, after you can try, you can also, you also through practical. I think that can work.
Okay, fair enough. Anybody with a different
While doing
opinion?
the community, yes,
Oh, sorry. I thought you had muted, but it's okay. Just continue.
because while doing this education and awareness, I think there is the demonstration part, whereby while talking to a community at large, maybe you can use a community dialogue. You start at the community level. Then from there, it can move from the community level, you start with the households. You start by addressing the issues and educating them on how they can go with it. Then from there, from households, it moves that way.
Okay. And what's your take on our societal view of producing weak men, quote unquote, weak men? Because I mean, you as a lady, you wouldn't want to stay with a man who cries, for example, or a man who doesn't want to take responsibility, or a man maybe who, nowadays I hear this term and I stand to be corrected though. Do we have what do you call these people? Stay at home. We have stay at home wives. So do we also have stay at home husbands? Are they there? Guys, hebu niambieni. Tuko na stay at home husbands nowadays. Like they are there. Like if they are there, what's your take on that?
Maybe I can take that.
Okay.
I
Who's
don't
talking?
think, Musiega, I honestly don't
Okay.
think it is bad for a man to show his emotions. A greater percentage of suicides happen because a man bottled up his emotions. And if you can check, what are they called? Suicide facts. More suicides happen among men than they happen among women. Why? Because as women, we sit down somewhere we'll sit down somewhere kwa kibaraza mahali, now we'll talk about our issues. I'll go to my friend and I'll tell her, me by the way, this man amenifikisha mahali fulani, and we'll talk and we'll sort our issues out. But men, the problem is you guys keep bottling it up. So I feel like it's better. I wouldn't mind being with a person who can actually express their emotions. Here's where the problem comes in. When somebody is sharing with you their emotions and then you use the same that vulnerability to break them, That is what is making people not want to share their emotions. So maybe the other thing that can be discussed, or something that needs to actually come up, is that when somebody is being vulnerable with you and they're sharing these emotions, it doesn't mean that they are weak. It just basically means that they are looking for help. So that needs to actually come out quite clearly, even with our education. It shouldn't mean that when a man is sitting in the house and they are, maybe they've not had a job, or I mean, we may have had a discussion with my husband and nimwambie, where me the amount of money I'm making is enough for us to be able to live comfortably. So you don't have to work. Is it so wrong for that discussion to be there? No, I genuinely think that's a very healthy relationship. It doesn't mean that this man is weak. It doesn't mean that um, they are inferior in any way. The conversation needs to start from, we need to focus on changing how we see vulnerability, other than, oh, gender roles, this is what a man is supposed to do, this is what a man is not supposed to do, or this is what a woman is supposed to do, this is not what a woman is supposed to do. That shift in conversation will actually make our society probably greater than it actually is. Thanks.
All right, Musiaga, before you exit the floor, are you okay with having a stay-at-home husband as a person?
Yes, personally, I would be comfortable with that.
For how long?
Because it, as long as I'm comfortable, I'm getting the money that we can live comfortably in. I mean, why? You know, the problem is we're looking at it as, it would be easier for the woman to stay at home so that she can take care of the children. But these children, I didn't get them alone. Them spending time with their father also does a lot to their growth. It does quite a lot to their growth. That's something people don't look at. Studies have shown that children who spend more time with their fathers actually grow to be better people in society. So that also shift in perspective needs to come. Yeah, Sylvia has asked, what is your definition of a normal man? Which is a very good question to ask. Does it mean that this man who is staying at home is not normal? He is a normal man. You just need to change or shift the perspective in which you're looking at things.
Okay, so perhaps you can also address Stephen Silas's concern. He says a normal man will never feel comfortable as a stay-at-home husband or not able to provide. The man may not show up the man may not show up clearly, but deep down it hits different.
If he does want to work, I'm not saying, oh, you can't work because I'm making a lot of money. No. Or, oh, you can't work because, I mean, it would be easier for you to be the stay-at-home husband. You can work. As long as you feel like, I need to provide for my family and you're comfortable with it, it's okay. But if you're not in a position to actually get something, by all means, stay in the house. If you want to go out there and hustle and get something for you and for your children and for your family, it is very much allowed and it's very okay.
Very nice, very nice. Silas, if you're in a position to talk, because naona uko na maoni kidogo kinzani, maoni tata. If you're in a position to talk, maybe you can unmute and say something with regards to this.
Right. I hope you can hear me. So from
Loud
my
and
view,
clear.
okay. So my argument is that for most men, it feels a bit inconsistent and inferior when someone is not able to do what protects him to be called a man. That is to mean, as a man in a family or in a homestead, their role is basically to provide, to protect, and to take care. So when someone is, their role is maybe kind of overtaken, because when the man providing the house, they kind of feel that their role is overtaken. They may not show it physically, but psychologically, they have something that is tainting them. And that thing is that, yeah, I have a family to protect, I have a family to provide for, but I am not able. And you find that most men get a very big challenge when they are not able to provide for their families. And when a man becomes a stay-at-home husband or a stay-at-home man, okay, some take it positively.
We are losing you, Stephen. Stephen, if you can be able to hear me. Okay, as you're waiting for Stephen to sort out that technical hitch, Josephine, I thought 1/3 also means 2/3. Ukweli, I don't know, but I don't think so, because I think 2/3 and 1/3 are both proportions of 3/3. So ideally, 2/3 is supposed to be greater than 1/3, something like that. I'm not a mathematician anyway, so maybe if we have an expert in mathematics here, you can be able to address that. But ideally, there was a bill that was proposed. I think it was a bill for, was it 2 or 3 years ago, that sought to, enact a law suggesting that people are supposed to, yeah, I mean, the parliament is supposed to be composed of 2/3 of the total people. So, yeah, go ahead if you can.
Okay, good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, I said 1/3, 1/3, because at my place of work, we use 1/3. Whereby if they're hiring people, at least 1/3 of them should be of one gender. If say they're hiring 4 people, or 2/3 of them, 1/3 of them must be, sorry, someone's calling me. 1/3 of them must be one gender. So if 1/3 of them is one gender, it's the same as saying 2/3 of them are another gender. That's what I meant. Not to say that it's not 2/3 or 1/3. If you say 1/3, then it means it definitely leaves 2/3 to be the other gender. If you say 2/3, it leaves the other one to be 1/3. So it's the same. That's what I was trying to say. Thank you.
Oh, it's okay. Now I get it. So actually for parliament, how many members are there? 349. So it's supposed to be 349, 2/3 of 349. If you are a mathematician, you can compute that and tell me how many women we are supposed to be having in parliament currently. All right. So Stephen, I don't know whether right now you're stable so that you can finish up on your point, and then we move to the next discussion.
Can I ask a question before we move on?
It's okay. You can go ahead, sir.
Now, you are talking about the issue of parliament. It being 2/3 gender, is it 1/3 gender rule? Now, bearing in mind that this is a seat which leads by election, I think this thing should be withdrawn.
Why?
Gender rule should be withdrawn.
Why?
Because this is an elected seat, and on top of a seat which you are elected, the gender role should not be a determinant. So it means kila mtu lazima hapo sasa ajikaze when we talk of election. If I'm wrong, yes, that should be withdrawn. The gender role should be withdrawn in the issue of elections.
Actually, it's okay. Just to bring to your attention that that was something that came in prior to this government, the current government you're having. That's why I heard there was a time the CJ, the then CJ, Maraga wrote to Parliament, wrote to the president requesting him to dissolve the parliament because it failed to enact the two-thirds gender rule. So I don't think whether it is still a trend currently, but it was. Though I also hear that some feministic organizations are fighting for that two-thirds gender parity rule, and I don't know. I'm not following up. I've not kept tabs with matters gender role with matters that particular bill. So I don't know whether it is still alive. I don't know whether they are still pushing with it or sijui hapo. But anyway, it's okay. Moving on. Sam, not Sam rather, but Steven, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Immaculate. Okay, so finish up on whatever you are saying.
Yeah, my Wi-Fi is kind of fluctuating. So I was saying that most of these men, at long last, some of them tend to leave even their families and run away and maybe begin a new life. And some of them may even get to drug abuse and all that. So basically, my point is, normally, despite that at home, husband being provided for, there is that mentality, that stereotyping of a man having to be able to provide, and it hits automatically to some extent that the man just finds himself not comfortable in such a situation. That is my submission.
All right, thank you for your submissions. Immaculate says, I agree, even in the Bible, men are supposed to be providers and protectors. Of course not. Okay, of course not ignoring their mental well-being. Sawa sawa. Where are we? So personally, my take, I would partially agree with you, Sam, and I would also partially agree with the previous speaker. I've forgotten her name. As a man, you're supposed to be the provider. Men feel nice when they are providing. You know, I don't suppose there's any man who will be comfortable, as you are saying, Silas. I mean, not why do I keep on calling Silas? It's Sila. I don't suppose there's any man who feel comfortable just seated at home. You're the one to clean, and I'm not saying this in a bad way, but you're the one to clean the house. You're the one maybe to clean utensils, and then at the evening, now your wife is the one who's coming with food, holding the unga or bread, you know, and then you're just comfortable. I don't think you'll feel okay. But on the other hand, you're also supposed to look at the mental side. Sometimes we're inakosekana, by the way, we're inakosa, like it's not there. So if it is not there, what do we do? So personally, I think it's something to do with your agreement with the partner. May agree aje between the both of you know, because moments like this always come. But pia as a man, I normally say, as a man, jitume. You're supposed to be like, you're the head of the family. Even the Bible says so for those who believe in Christian doctrines and whatever. Man, you are the head of the family. So as the head of the family, what are you supposed to do? Act like the head. There's no way the head can be the one, like, wewe ujui chenye unafanya, you know. But at the same time, pia you're also supposed to remember that you are human. It's okay to cry, but do so in a quote unquote a manner that pleases God. So nowadays nasikia hiyo msemo huko nje. Let me laugh in a manner that pleases God. I don't know what that means exactly, but I want you to believe in a decent way. So, I mean, I don't see any problem with a man lacking, but sasa hiyo kujituma, to what extent are you willing to go to make sure that you are also equally providing? Musiega, is it it's still a trend. That is why they are nominated members of parliament. Ah, okay. But still, the nominated members of parliament were there even before, this two-thirds gender rule advocacy or activism campaign came up. So why are most organizations really fighting for that two-thirds if already we have nominated members of parliament in the National Assembly or the parliament? All right. So I think we can move on. Anybody who wants to weigh in on any matter, more so on the norm matter, because that's where we are, before we move on? Anyone who wants to say something? You okay? Give me a thumbs up, at least nilijua hata tuko pamoja, nijue hata hakuna mtu amesniki na hakuna mtu amesneak akaenda kukula, na sisi tuko kwa meeting. Give me a thumbs up if you're getting me. So Eziane, Linda,
Yeah. Yes.
are
I'm here.
you still with us ama ulipotea?
Hapana, niko hapa.
Okay, what is your take on whatever we just discussed about gender norms? Your personal take. Forget about now your facilitation, because I understand you are facilitating the session, but forget about that. Now, what is your personal take? Unaona aje? Unaona wanaume it's okay, wewe it's okay, unaweza ukakaa tu kwa nyumba?
If I can manage, I'm very much okay with that. It all goes back to one's perception and agreement between the two of you.
Okay, very well. That's well answered. It all depends with how you've agreed with your partner. Now, moving on. Since we're talking about matters, gender, sex, and whatever, I need to bring up another topic which is quite interesting, and it has sparked a lot of controversy around the world. And that topic is about LGBTQ. LGBTQ. The full meaning of LGBTQ, I think it's lesbian, LGB, bisexual, Q, LGBT, transgender, queer, gay. And then I hear there's also another term called plus plus plus. So I don't know what that means. So we'll start with you, of course, Eziane. What's your take on matters LGBTQ? Because I think, and before you answer that, can you tell us where LGBTQ falls under? Is it a matter of sex or is it a matter of gender?
As we have defined gender, these are socially constructed views on how one should behave in either being a female or a male. When we go back to the LGBTQ community, it falls on both parts. It doesn't stick to one gender. Yes, it falls under gender.
Okay, it falls under gender. So that means that there are some people who identify themselves. So basically, LGBTQ is something sort of like an identity of who you are as a person.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So the floor is open to anybody who wishes to contribute anything about LGBTQ. What are your personal views about LGBTQ? Because truth be told, these people are around there in our community. They are here. And in fact, I hear, and I think most of you normally keep tabs of what is happening. I think the other day the Supreme Court allowed them to form associations around the country. So like right now we have several associations associated with matters LGBTQ. So I want to hear what is everyone's take. You can type on the chat box or you can just raise your hand either, or you can just unmute rather and communicate. What is your personal take on matters LGBTQ? Yes, Gladys?
Yeah, my name is Gladys, and thank you for the opportunity to contribute to this topic. My personal view about LGBTQ is, first of all, it is a result of how people are oriented when growing up, and it has more to do with not the roles, but more of sex, according to how I see it. And personally, how I view it, it's a culmination or a subtotal of many other things, just apart from the manifestation of it. If someone in the LGBTQ circles or is as declared to be part of that, I believe it's a matter of orientation and how someone has been brought up and how they view life. But the natural way of life, of being female and male, and showing those characteristics and roles,
Hello. I had seen Gladys had raised her hand. Gladys Danu, you can unmute your mic.
I hope you can hear me now.
Yes, please continue.
Yeah, I'm not sure where I left it. I've lost my train of thought. Maybe someone else can take it up from there.
It's okay. You are explaining more where LGBTQ stands between gender and sex.
Yeah, what I can say is that the society is just trying to run away from the reality of the natural order. Mostly for my friends who are lesbians, they are trying to be more like men, or they feel that they need to be more feminine or more men-like. And for friends who have interacted with who are gay, some of them it's from material gain and for um, personal gratification, if I can say that. And some of them it's the way of life they have learned since they were brought up. And sometimes we can actually blame it on the parenting, or maybe where they went to school, because we know this thing is so rampant in high schools and in boarding schools. Yeah, so that is what is my personal view about the whole issue of LGBTQ. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Have their check.
Thank you. Thank you, Denise. Apologies, guys. I had a little bit of a technical issue. Where are we?
We were winding on the discussion where LGBTQ falls between gender and sex.
Okay, sawa. Thank you very much. I don't know whether somebody has read. Aziane, have you read Silas' concern? But he says, I believe LGBTQ is more of Western adoption. It is a societal insertion. It does not add up, even relating to the morality and virtues taught to us. Again, the issue with gender equality and equal rights is contributing big time to this aspect. Stephen, since you are a very conservative man, you're not a liberal. You're a liberal. Ukisema ni right ni right. Very fixated. But anyway, that's okay. That's okay. And okay, sawa. So anybody else with views on LGBTQ? But personally, my take on LGBTQ, mi naonanga most of these people are driven by peer pressure. Because so and so anafanya, pia wewe unaona, let me also chip in. Let me also try. And then the reason why I don't tend to take LGBTQ very seriously, and please somebody forgive me if you're not if you're in that group and maybe you are in a discussion today, please me siko baya, it's just for the purposes of learning. So my personal views are number one, LGBTQ driven by peer pressure. Then number two, I don't think that there's a sense of commitment in matters LGBTQ. Like people are just there for enjoyment purposes, but I don't think there's really that much commitment when it comes to matters LGBTQ. Then number three, as much as every one of us has his or her own personal views about matters LGBTQ, just know that it is here to stay. It has started, it is spreading, and some of us maybe have friends or have very close people around us who are into that sector. So I don't think really you can do much to change that person's view or that person's narrative on matters LGBTQ, because I think ideally everybody has his or her own stand. You choose your sexuality, you choose your sexual orientation, who you want to engage with. So we just the mechanisms of how to adapt as much as we have our own personal views. Personally, I don't believe LGBT is the right thing. There's somebody like who knows who, maybe who believes like LGBTQ is the way to go, you know. So at the end of the day, we need to find mechanisms of adapting to this thing, because at the end of the day, it is here to stay. Silas, some people have associated the same with cultism, satanism. I cannot defend this though. It's weird to some to some extent. Okay. So you believe that LGBTQ people belong to a particular cult. Sawa sawa. So yeah, those are my personal views. They're not views of BBYI. Anyway, moving on. Or before we move on, kuna mtu anataka kuweigh in?
Daniel, you're muted.
No, I'm not muted. Can you hear me? Am I audible? Okay, sawa sawa. Thank you for the confirmation, Martin. So anybody wants to weigh in on the matter before we talk? Before we move on, anybody? Eziani, can you hear me? If you can hear me, give me a thumbs up so that we proceed.
Okay. So for our key takeaway message for today's session, we describe gender, gender norms, gender roles, whereby you say gender, it describes the social differences in a way that males and females are expected to behave. And it all goes back to one's perception, agreement, and understanding. And sex, these are the different biological and genetic differences between men and women of all ages. And one thing to note, gender is learned and we can change our behaviors. And understanding sex, gender, and gender norms is crucial for all of us, whereby it can promote equality, it can help in addressing health disparities, and it can also help in fostering an inclusive society. That's our key takeaways for today's session. And that's the end of my presentation.
Okay. So what about now? Hello? Hello? Hello?
We can hear you.
Can I be heard?
Yes, you can
Fantastic.
continue
Thank you.
talking.
Okay. So I think you've covered most of the parts, and I think we've addressed most of the concerns. Any person wishes to give us something or say something as we wind up? We happen to see one of your feedback, and one of the persons suggested that we should be keeping our sessions to a maximum of, we should be keeping our session between 1 hour to 1 hour 30 minutes. So I think we've just completed the 1 hour segment, and I think that would be better. Okay. Silas asks, is the girl child being empowered while the boy child is getting extinct as far as gender equality and roles are concerned? My personal views, I think that is true. Because like we have so many organizations that keep on focusing on matters, girl child empowerment, girl child empowerment. I mean, thank God, the former, should I call her former? The former second lady, Pastor Dorcas Rigadi, came up with an initiative to support the boy child. Otherwise, I'm going to hear anything concerning boy child. But I think like the current society, we are focusing too much on the girl child and we are leaving the boy child behind. So like in the next, observing from my observation, in the next, like let's talk of 20 years, 20 to 50 years, the boy child will be the one now too. The boy child will be the one crying for gender equality. Hapo ndio sasa utasikia 2/3 gender for boys ama 2/3 gender for men. So I think as much as you are trying to also bring that aspect of gender equality, we are supposed to look at it on both sides, because there's no need for us over investing or over empowering the women. I'm not saying that empowering the women is wrong, no, like it's okay, but let us also not forget the other side. Because currently, me personally, I feel that we as men, we've been sidelined. Ndio maana hata most of the job applications, I don't know whether we have an HR expert within our audience here, but most of the job advertisements, nikiangalia, you'll see them saying that towards the end of now the advertisement, women, and I think they normally talk of women, persons with disability are encouraged to apply. So now, personally looking at such an advertisement, I'm like, okay, so women and persons with disability are encouraged to apply. What about the men? So that already gives you a blueprint of like, already these people, they're looking for a particular candidate. They've already settled for a particular candidate. So after okay, apply, you're like, let me just give it a shot. But this organization in the short party, not a picture of like we are looking for women. We want women in our organization. So personally, I think something needs to be done. Something needs to be checked. Okay. Elsie, please note there's a difference between gender equality and gender equity. Okay. Okay. Talk to us. Are you in a position to communicate, Elsie? As we wind up, Elsie, unaweza mute. All right. So I think with that, because I don't seem to spot the presenter, most probably she is experiencing some technical hitch. I think we've come to the end of today's session. That's session 13, gender and gender norms. Please feel free to continue engaging in today's discussion on our thread, on our WhatsApp page, or on our WhatsApp group rather. And yeah, let's keep the conversation alive there, because I know, especially on these matters of gender equality, gender equity, LGBTQ, we can talk about them on and on and on as it Aisha. So let's keep on talking about it. Let's keep on sharing, like let's get each other's peace of mind. So with that, I think if there's nothing else of concern, yeah. Nyangua, I think we can continue this discussion on WhatsApp, or group. Elsie to define what does she mean by gender equality and gender equity, and then we see whether Steve's concern can be addressed, because yeye anafeel boy child ameachwa nyuma, you are empowering the girl child, which to some extent, personally, I think it might be true, it's not. But otherwise, thank you for being such a lovely audience. We appreciate your time, appreciate your company tonight. And yeah, let's meet for session 14, which will be happening on next week, Tuesday. Have a lovely evening, guys. Good night.